Welcome, Kayla, to my YouTube channel. Before we dive in, could you please introduce yourself? Tell me about your background and what motivated you to start learning Farsi and start teaching English. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So super happy to be here. Thanks for having me on your channel today. So my name's Caleb. I'm a native American. I was born in the United States, in the state of Colorado. I grew up there and then moved to Idaho for a little while, and now I'm studying biophysics in college in Utah. And so I've always lived in the Western United States. I love the United States. It's a great place. And and I've also always loved languages. I've tried to learn languages growing up, and I've never been like super good at learning any specific language. But I learned a little bit of German when I was in school, in high school, and I had this really cool opportunity right after I graduated high school to travel to Europe for a few years. And I lived in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and did like humanitarian work there. And so while I was there, one of my main jobs was to teach English to immigrants that were moving from different parts of the world to these different countries. And while I was there, I met these Persian-speaking people from Iran, from Afghanistan, and from just a bunch of other countries. And they were just the coolest people, the absolute kindest, most nice, most just wonderful people. And I really wanted to like connect with them more. And so me being the ignorant American that I was like, oh, I need to learn Arabic to speak with them. And they're like, no, we don't speak Arabic. And I'm like, oh, like, what do you speak? And like, oh, Persian. And I knew nothing about Persian, absolutely nothing about Persian. And so I started having them teach me just a little bit. And I mean, I was hooked. Like, I love Persian. It is such a beautiful language. It's like speaking poetry every time you say something, you know?
Happy to hear that.
Yeah. And so I started learning mostly by learning with these people that I was teaching English to, and then they were teaching me Persian. And then I bought some books and I started doing that. But the main way that I learned Persian was through actually speaking with these native speakers. And so now I'm here. I'm still learning. It's been about 4 years since I started learning, and my Persian isn't perfect by any means, but
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Out of this world.
Thank you so much.
So Caleb, I get asked a lot about this question. A lot of people tell me that they know a lot of words, they know the proper grammar, they understand grammar, they have studied a lot, and they can form many sentences in their head, but when it comes to actually speaking, they freeze up or they can't get the words out, right? And I'm sure you have heard it a lot. So what's your approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the hardest things I think about learning a language is distinguishing between the set grammar and how to actually learn a language, and then how people actually speak. They're two completely different things. They follow the same, I don't know, pattern, but they're completely different. And so you can know how to speak a language perfectly and understand every aspect of it, but if you don't actually practice it, it doesn't mean anything. You can't do anything with it. So I always tell people, if you want to feel better speaking a language, you actually have to speak it with a person. And that means you have to make mistakes. You have to start off being really bad at speaking a language. And that's okay. Like, everybody who learns a language starts off really terribly at some point. And so, for example, when I was learning German or Persian, my main goal was to speak with natives like every single day. And I'd start my conversation by saying, hey, I'm really bad at Persian, or I'm really bad at German, so I'm sorry, but are you okay if I try to speak, and then you correct me? And after a while, not only do you start forming patterns in your mind about how like people actually speak, but your mouth and your muscles and the way that you actually move your vocal cords begins to feel how a language is supposed to feel.
It's an intense workout.
It is exactly. It's like any other workout. You're just using your mouth, you know. And so you have to actually build those patterns and those experiences to really get it.
Actually, you mentioned a good point, which was embarrassing sometimes ourselves, right? So how did you overcome, or what's your tips and tricks or suggestion when it comes to the situations where we know we might make mistakes and you don't want to embarrass ourselves?
Yeah, I think there's an English phrase, and so maybe some of your followers know this, maybe they don't, but you have to own it. You have to basically like be confident in knowing that you're not perfect, right? And so whenever I was in a situation where I know I'm going to make mistakes, I just say it. I just say, hey, my Persian isn't perfect. Like, I'm going to make mistakes. And like, if I can make mistakes, you can make mistakes. I tell my followers all the time, like, I'm making mistakes in front of hundreds of thousands of people. If I can make mistakes, you can too, right? And so if you're just confident in knowing that you will make mistakes, it makes it the pressure's off. Like, you're not trying to trick anybody. Everybody knows you're not a native, right? And so there's no pressure to be perfect. And as we learn to embrace our mistakes and embrace the learning process, the learning curve, we just stop focusing on it. And eventually you'll get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, I can speak this language kind of confidently. And when I do make mistakes, I'm excited because I'm learning, like, oh, I made a mistake here and I can improve on that now. So.
Yeah. And Caleb, tell me about some of the routines that language learners should build on a daily basis to get to their goals, which is speaking English confidently and fluently.
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal routine is I spend a little bit of time reading, listening, and speaking every single day, and then learning words as well. So you have to start off by learning vocabulary. If you don't know any vocabulary, you can't speak, you can't listen, you can't talk, like, you can't do anything if you don't have vocabulary. So I start off by learning. Me personally, I do 30 words a day. And for some people, that's a lot. And starting with maybe 1 or 2 words a day, that's good enough. You just have to be consistent with it every single day. And then I spend 20 minutes reading a book in a different language. I spend 20 minutes listening to like music or a podcast or something. And then I speak for 20 minutes. And sometimes I'm talking to myself, and that's okay if you're just talking to yourself. The point is to do that workout, to feel it, to understand it. And so that is the most important part, in my opinion, is you have to speak, even if it's just to yourself. Like you said earlier, some people will just study the language and they'll never speak, and it's not doing you any good. So you have to listen, you have to read, and you have to speak every single day if you really want to get better.
And here's the thing, like, a lot of language learners know this fact, but they stop doing it, or they don't do it in the first place because, I don't know, they feel like it's not working. There is a magic, trick that they don't know that someone knows, right? But I think the only remedy is practice, and practice, repetition and repetition. And you have to discipline ourselves and sit down and study and do the work. Right.
Exactly. And it's not easy. Like, we have busy lives, you're trying to learn a new language while you're occupied with everything else going on in your life. Like, that's difficult,
It is.
But I think being, like you said, disciplined and really taking that time every single day not only makes you a better language speaker, it makes you a better person, and you're able to be more disciplined in other areas of your life as well. So
exactly. So Caleb, if English was a personality, what would it be?
That's a great question. If English was a personality, it'd be a lot more boring than Persian. I'd say that. But I think English, especially American English, is such a new language. It's still kind of developing. But American English is really it's exciting. It's a very I'd call it a party animal almost. Like, it has a lot of slang and a lot of a lot of young, energetic personality to it. It's not a very old language. You talk about British English, on the other hand, and British English, I'd say, is a very proper, very formal, very regimented language. That's the distinction I would probably make.
Okay, but I would say English is very reasonable.
Yeah, I'd agree with
that. It's a language of reason, right? And very expressive.
Yes.
Whereas Farsi is very poetic, romantic, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. If you could teach only one song for your student to learn English, what would it be?
Only one song?
Only one song.
Ooh. Oh, that's a hard one. There's a lot of really good songs out there. I would probably learn... Man, that's a hard question. I've got so many good songs.
I got you.
Yeah. Do you know any Tim McGraw songs?
No.
Country music is emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a lot of feelings. It's really emotional. So I'd say country music in general, it's a little harder to understand, but if you can understand country music, you can understand basically.
I just like Shania Twain in this genre.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Caleb, do you have any difficult words for me to pronounce? I want to challenge myself. And I'm going to do it in Farsi for you. So
let's see. Can you pronounce one of the words that people really have a hard time with is literally or literally? Are you able to do that one?
Literally. Yeah. I have to be at the right time. Literally.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's tricky. And the thing is depending on where you live in the world, you can either pronounce it literally, right, or literally.
Literally.
We'll make
literally is easier for Persians, for sure.
Yeah.
But literally is a little bit difficult.
Yeah, that one's tricky. So there's literally, there's words that start with a PH, so like phenomenon. Yeah. Words that have a TH, so like the, for example, the, there, the voice TH.
Yeah, we don't have it in Farsi, of course.
Yeah. So you could say, I don't know, can you say the word like, there, for example?
There.
Yeah, there. You did it perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Some people have easy, something like challenging, like discombobulated, something like that.
Oh man. Coagulation. Not bad. Okay. I just thought of one. I was writing and I thought of a different one. Let's do this one.
Okay.
This one's hard for English speakers too.
Yeah. Worcestershire sauce. Sauce.
Yeah.
I love that sauce. I use it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
That one's awesome.
Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire sauce. Yeah. That one is that one's pretty difficult. Here, let's do this one.
Anachronism.
You're really close. Anachronism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one's difficult. Yeah. Anachronism. It's hard, right? Like if you're learning English, and you get a word like that, you're like, what do I? The only way you can learn that is if you hear a native say
exactly.
It, right?
Same with Farsi, right? Like you have to listen to that pronunciation first and then say it.
Yeah.
So
okay. Do you want to do one more? I've got one.
Yes, really please. Two more.
This one.
Bring it on.
Okay, two more.
Two more.
Okay, let's go. How about this one?
Beguile?
Yeah, great job.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
You say beguile, you say beguile. Either one works. It just kind of depends on your where you live.
I'm not that bad.
Okay. Yeah, you're killing it. You're doing awesome. You're like 7 for 7 right now. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. And let's do this one.
Ambiguous.
Good job. Ambiguous. Nice. Dang, Kay. I'd rate your English like 10 out of 10.
Oh.
You've got it.
I'm flattered. Thanks so much. Okay, so
Awesome.
Caleb, do you have any final words in English? Then we're going to switch to Farsi.
Yeah. Honestly, my biggest thing for English learners is that they should know, like, they don't need to be scared speaking English. Most English speakers are actually really excited to work with people when they're trying to learn English, and they feel kind of flattered, and they feel just really happy when people ask to practice their English with them. It shows trust. It shows a connection. And I just really would invite really anybody who's trying to learn English to set aside any sense of embarrassment or fear. Like, we're all humans. We're all the same people. We're all trying to learn different things in life. And we're, us native English speakers, are here to listen and here to help you. There's always weird people out there who are mean about it, but most people are really, really kind and really want to help. So don't be afraid. Like, just speak, just do it. Just get over that hurdle of being afraid of it, and it'll come so much easier. So I believe that
was very inspiring, very encouraging. Good. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.